Could ancient land bridges truly facilitate a remarkable transcontinental dispersal of early ceratopsians across late Cretaceous continents? Why did this specific dinosaur completely abandon the iconic brow horns and nasal spikes favored by its relatives? How did a remarkably reinforced parrot-like beak enable this creature to process tough prehistoric vegetation with absolute precision? What evolutionary mechanism allowed tightly packed tooth columns to continuously replace worn crowns throughout an entire lifespan? Do concentrated fossil layers containing dozens of individuals prove these herbivores actively maintained complex synchronized social structures? How did massive seasonal migrations across ancient floodplains shape the ecological footprint of these resilient prehistoric populations? Why did this remarkably adaptable genus survive until the absolute final moments before a catastrophic global environmental collapse? Don't miss what comes next in this story. Watch to the very end.
Welcome, I am Jonny Dony, and this channel presents dinosaur documentaries grounded in verified paleontological science. Today, we follow the Leptoceratops across ancient coastal plains in herds of the Fading Floodplains. Follow the soundtrack on Spotify, YouTube Music, and Apple Music to enter our monthly prize drawing. One winner per platform receives $100 monthly, totaling $300 across all three. Like and subscribe to secure your entry. Now, let us step back into the past.
Herds of the Fading Floodplains. Everything that lives is designed to end, and we are not exempt from it. Carl Sagan. Cretaceous Floodplain. Warm air moves slowly across the ancient coastal plains. Meandering rivers carve dark channels through dense, lush conifer forests. The ground remains perpetually damp from heavy seasonal rains. This landscape forms the stable, enduring foundation of a vast island continent. 68 million years define the final geological chapter of an ancient era. The heavy atmosphere carries a consistent, humid, tropical climate. Sunlight filters steadily through towering evergreen canopies. Early flowering shrubs spread rapidly across the damp forest floor. Deep genetic lineages trace directly back across vanished land bridges. Small protoceratopsid ancestors crossed these narrow terrestrial corridors during shifting climatic seasons. They arrived seeking reliable vegetation. The newly discovered territory offered abundant, diverse botanical resources for sustained, long-term survival. Seasonal precipitation patterns consistently regulate water distribution across the entire drainage basin. Muddy riverbanks accumulate rich, thick alluvial sediment layers. Aquatic ferns thrive within shallow backwater pools. The ecosystem maintains a remarkably delicate, interconnected hydrological balance across the valley. Persistent slow tectonic forces gradually reshape the entire lowland topography. Distant mountain ranges rise steadily along the western continental margins. Surface erosion washes fresh mineral deposits downstream. The fertile floodplain expands steadily outward toward the warm, ancient sea. Warm temperatures accelerate rapid, continuous plant growth throughout every month. Dense thickets of primitive shrubs line the winding waterways. Decaying organic matter continuously returns vital nutrients to the soil. The entire landscape pulses with relentless, vibrant biological activity each day. The open floodplain quietly welcomes wandering herbivores from the northern territories. Fresh foliage provides essential daily energy reserves. Soft river mud perfectly retains the heavy impressions of passing feet. A complex, dynamic food web steadily forms across the entire region. Extended dry seasons gradually reduce the widespread standing water levels. Narrowing river channels steadily expose wide sandy bars. Tough plant roots reach deeper into the slowly cracking earth. The shifting environment demands constant biological adaptation from every single creature. Interconnected trophic networks establish highly reliable resource availability across the basin. Diverse insects diligently pollinate the earliest flowering plants. Small mammals scavenge fallen seeds beneath the canopy. The entire system operates with quiet, steady mechanical efficiency across seasons. Coastal plains stretch continuously for hundreds of kilometers inland. Sharp salt air constantly mixes with the heavy scent of damp pine. Gentle tidal influences quietly shape the easternmost wetland zones. Marine and terrestrial worlds seamlessly overlap across this shifting coastal boundary. Phylogenetic evidence confirms clear ancestral connections across ancient land bridges. The original transcontinental journey required immense physical endurance. Early survivors found immediate refuge within these expansive wetlands. Their direct descendants rapidly adapted to the demanding, shifting local environmental conditions here. Annual spring floodwaters consistently deposit thick layers of fine mineral silt. Powerful river currents transport heavy gravel from distant highland peaks. Tough pioneer vegetation quickly colonizes the newly exposed banks. The geological cycle repeats without interruption or hesitation every single year. The regional climate remains remarkably stable across multiple decades. Consistent seasonal rainfall steadily sustains the broadleaf forest canopy. High atmospheric humidity perfectly preserves delicate plant structures. These specific weather conditions actively favor continuous botanical growth patterns today. The entire landscape holds massive reserves of slowly stored carbon. Decomposing timber continuously feeds extensive underground fungal networks. Active soil microorganisms efficiently break down ancient organic matter. The living ground breathes steadily beneath the heavy. Phylogenetic evidence confirms early protoceratopsids crossed ancient land bridges to colonize these coastal floodplains. Record your preferred migration theory in the comments below. Like and subscribe so I can continue mapping these ancient ecosystems. The next chapter reveals how their hornless skulls enabled rapid bipedal locomotion. Bipedal skull. 2 meters of dense muscle shifts across uneven terrain. The animal moves with deliberate balance, testing the damp soil beneath its broad feet. Shortened forelimbs rest lightly, while elongated hind legs absorb each sudden impact. The overall posture remains remarkably fluid during routine travel. A broad cranial structure dominates the forward profile. Unlike later relatives, the skull completely lacks brow horns and nasal spikes, relying instead on a reinforced parrot-like beak for efficient vegetation processing. Bone density concentrates precisely along this biting edge. Structural integrity remains uncompromised during routine feeding. The front limbs measure significantly shorter than the rear supports. This specific anatomical ratio dictates how weight transfers during routine travel. Shoulders stay low while hips maintain a powerful, elevated stance. Gravity naturally pulls the heavy torso toward the hindquarters. Locomotion shifts seamlessly between two distinct mechanical states. 4 points of contact provide essential stability during slow grazing phases. 2 powerful legs suddenly engage when rapid speed becomes necessary. The rapid structural transition requires minimal muscular effort or conscious adjustment. The center of mass rests firmly above the heavy pelvic girdle. Cranial weight balances perfectly against the extended tail region during rapid movement. Each measured stride maintains precise equilibrium without requiring complex spinal corrections. Mechanical stability emerges directly from proportional skeletal design. Robust architecture supports continuous terrestrial navigation across varied ground. Joint surfaces distribute pressure evenly through every step cycle. Cartilage cushions absorb sudden impacts from uneven stone or dense roots. The frame remains rigid yet remarkably flexible under physical stress. Muscle attachment points cluster densely along the upper thigh. Broad tendons anchor directly to prominent ridges along the femur. Sudden contraction generates explosive force with minimal metabolic energy expenditure. The entire powerful lower limb functions as a single biological lever. Ankle joints pivot rapidly to accommodate sudden directional changes across thick vegetation. Ligaments tighten automatically during sharp lateral shifts across open ground surfaces. The broad foot remains firmly planted while the torso rotates smoothly above. Agility completely replaces brute strength as the primary survival mechanism. Overall proportions remain significantly reduced compared to later massive descendants. Heavy defensive armor never developed along this particular evolutionary branch. Streamlined body geometry prioritizes rapid escape over stationary confrontation. The compact silhouette maintains remarkable efficiency during sustained movement across open terrain. Vegetation processing relies entirely on precise cranial mechanics. The reinforced beak slices through tough stems with surgical accuracy. Jaw alignment ensures uniform pressure distribution across every single bite. Daily cropping efficiently sustains essential metabolic demands without excessive chewing effort. Cervical vertebrae support substantial cranial mass during upright postures. Thick muscular bands brace the heavy neck against sudden gravitational pulls. The head lifts cleanly when scanning distant horizons for potential threats. Structural reinforcement prevents spinal fatigue during prolonged observation periods. Reduced cranial ornamentation eliminates unnecessary weight from the forward profile. Energy reserves redirect toward leg development and cardiovascular capacity. Speed becomes the ultimate defensive adaptation in open environments. The specialized skull remains purely functional, completely stripped of decorative excess. Postural adaptation responds instantly to shifting ground conditions. Knees bend deeply when navigating steep embankments or fallen timber. The flexible spine curves gently to maintain forward momentum over natural obstacles. Every complex joint synchronizes perfectly with the rugged terrain below. Evolutionary pressures shaped this specific morphological blueprint across generations. Natural selection favored balanced proportions over extreme specialization. Why would a hornless dinosaur abandon heavy armor for pure speed? I traced its skeletal design to confirm agility outweighed brute strength. Drop your observations below and subscribe for weekly updates. The next chapter explains how continuous tooth replacement processed abrasive ferns. Herbivore diet. The reinforced beak closes with mechanical precision against tough fern stems. A sharp downward shear slices cleanly through fibrous leaves. Raw vegetation is pulled from the damp soil in steady, rhythmic motions that constantly sustain vital daily energy across the open floodplains. Low-growing cycads and primitive flowering shrubs dominate the immediate foraging range. Each mouthful delivers concentrated nutrients wrapped in tough defensive cellulose. The animal selects younger green shoots deliberately, avoiding heavily lignified older growth entirely throughout the very cool early morning hours. Inside the jaw, tightly packed tooth columns grind abrasive plant matter efficiently. Worn crowns shed constantly while fresh replacements emerge steadily from below. This continuous renewal sustains heavy daily consumption across an entire lifespan without sudden daily mechanical failure. The lateral grinding motion demands sustained muscular effort from powerful cheek structures. Abrasive silica particles from ancient conifers wear down enamel rapidly. The specialized apparatus compensates by maintaining a relentless chewing cycle throughout the entire warm, long, steady daylight period. Efficient nutrient extraction fuels steady movement across the shifting coastal plains. Internal fermentation breaks down complex carbohydrates into vital metabolic reserves. These concentrated reserves power long migrations between scattered seasonal damp, shallow, rich wetland feeding zones throughout each late afternoon. Daily foraging routines optimize caloric intake while minimizing unnecessary physical exertion across the terrain. The group spreads out across open floodplain grasses with deliberate care. Individual spacing reduces direct competition for dense vegetation patches completely each very early dawn. The digestive tract processes fibrous material slowly to maximize nutrient absorption. Fermentation chambers host specialized microorganisms that break down rigid cell walls completely. This biological machinery converts tough plant matter into usable chemical energy efficiently throughout the vital daily process steadily. Seasonal rainfall patterns dictate the precise distribution of edible foliage across the landscape. Herds track green shoots moving steadily toward newly flooded riverbanks. This consistent migratory rhythm prevents localized overgrazing and preserves stable local regional natural ecosystem balance entirely. Sunlight penetrates the dense canopy to illuminate nutrient-rich ground cover. The animal lowers its heavy head to graze steadily on emerging angiosperm seedlings. Methodical cropping allows continuous feeding without breaking stride across the distant, vast, flat, wide-open terrain below. Water sources remain absolutely essential for digesting the exceptionally high fiber content. The group pauses at clear, cool, shallow stream edges, now to drink deeply. Constant hydration supports the vital chemical reactions required for efficient plant breakdown throughout the entire day. The heavy metabolic cost of constant mastication requires steady caloric replenishment. Every deliberate step forward brings fresh opportunities for vital energy acquisition. This relentless pursuit of sustenance defines the daily existence across the vast, ancient, dusty plains completely. Decaying organic matter enriches the deep, soft, moist, rich, dark soil beneath their steady footfalls. Fallen leaves and discarded plant fragments fuel vital microbial decomposition cycles. The floodplain regenerates steadily through this quiet, continuous exchange of nutrients each dry season. Continuous grazing pressure directly shapes the structural composition of dense plant communities. Selective browsing encourages rapid regrowth in highly resilient understory species. The landscape evolves continuously in direct response to these precise feeding patterns across countless generations. The complex digestive system transforms raw vegetation into dense muscle tissue efficiently. This biological conversion sustains the entire coastal food web reliably. Larger predators rely entirely on this remarkably highly efficient, steady transfer of captured solar energy throughout the vast ecosystem. Nutrient cycling accelerates. While previous chapters examined skeletal anatomy, this segment reveals specialized feeding mechanics. My analysis confirms continuous tooth replacements sustain daily nutrient extraction. Like and subscribe to track my ongoing paleontological research. The next chapter demonstrates how coordinated herd defenses countered sudden predator threats. Predator threat. A sudden rustle fractures the damp undergrowth near the cold riverbank. Heads snap upward in perfect unison across the clearing. Muscles coil beneath thick, protective skin. The entire group freezes, waiting for the first unmistakable sign of approaching danger. Heavy footsteps echo against the packed ancient floodplain earth. A large carnivore emerges slowly from the dense conifer line. The outer defensive ring immediately shifts inward. Adults now position themselves deliberately between the thick brush and the vulnerable juveniles. Multiple fossil sites preserve dozens of individuals concentrated within single stratigraphic layers. This geological record confirms highly synchronized, critical seasonal migration routes. Herds moved as cohesive units across open, exposed terrain. Collective vigilance successfully reduced constant individual exposure to ambush. Territorial boundaries breach suddenly without any prior warning. The predator lunges forward with explosive, highly calculated speed. The nearest adults instantly pivot onto their powerful, elongated hind limbs. They abandon stable quadrupedal posture entirely for rapid, bipedal sprinting across the open clearing. Young animals huddle tightly near the geometric center of the formation. Protective adult bodies create a living barrier against sudden, lethal strikes. Coordinated lateral movement maintains this crucial defensive spacing. Every adult now tracks the circling threat with unwavering, constant focus. Shrinking coastal plains force concentrated movement through increasingly narrow corridors. Severe habitat fragmentation eliminates traditional, predictable escape routes. The entire herd navigates these constrained pathways with deliberate caution. Limited open space drastically increases direct confrontation probabilities across the shifting terrain. Healed skeletal fractures appear frequently within recovered adult specimens. These distinct marks document frequent territorial disputes across multiple generations. Dense scar tissue reveals past violent encounters successfully survived and healed. Physical resilience consistently shapes the enduring architecture of all survivors here. Organized herd behavior emerges as the primary survival mechanism against persistent regional hunters. Synchronized seasonal migration routes guide them steadily toward reliable water sources. Complex movement patterns continuously optimize group cohesion across vast distances. Fragmented landscapes test this vital unity constantly. The carnivore circles the dense defensive perimeter with methodical patience. It searches carefully for any momentary weakness in the protective wall. A single misstep could immediately trigger a deadly pursuit sequence. The tense standoff stretches across silent, heavy, prolonged minutes now. A sudden, sharp movement finally breaks the prolonged standoff. The entire herd instantly erupts swiftly into coordinated, chaotic flight. Thick, dense dust clouds rapidly obscure the immediate surrounding terrain. Powerful bipedal strides carry vulnerable members safely toward the muddy riverbank. Dozens of watchful eyes monitor the retreating predator from safe, muddy cover. Collective vigilance successfully neutralizes the immediate hunting advantage entirely. Shared environmental awareness distributes the constant burden of daily survival. No single individual bears the entire predatory threat alone today. The scattered group slowly reassembles near a dense, sheltered ancient conifer grove. Heavy breathing gradually subsides into steady, synchronized rhythms across the quiet clearing. Adults carefully check on the scattered, vulnerable juveniles. Deep social bonds tighten immediately following the sudden, violent disruption. Synchronized migration routes resume steadily across the ancient, shifting floodplain. The herd maintains strict, disciplined formation despite the recent violent danger. Unyielding seasonal pressures dictate their continued forward progress. Extreme shifting environmental instability continually demands completely unwavering group discipline. Gregarious defensive formations provide critical mathematical advantages against solitary, opportunistic hunters. The probability of successful predation drops significantly within dense, moving groups. Coordinated escape tactics consistently. I tracked their coordinated defenses against predators, yet the next chapter reveals a sudden atmospheric collapse. My analysis confirms these survival strategies failed against rapid vegetation loss. Like and subscribe to support my ongoing paleontological research. The final segment details how oxygen depletion triggered their absolute biological endpoint. Terminal lineage. The compact frame pushes steadily through rapidly thinning undergrowth. Shortened forelimbs sweep aside brittle branches, while elongated hind legs drive the heavy body forward. Every single step demands precise metabolic allocation. The surrounding canopy offers diminishing shelter across the drying plains. Regional moisture patterns shift abruptly across established drainage networks. Shallow channels recede steadily across the broad coastal plain. Moisture evaporates rapidly from exposed sediment deposits across the valley. The ancient floodplain contracts relentlessly under mounting atmospheric pressure and rising temperatures. Internal reserves deplete faster than fresh vegetation can replenish them. Digestive tracts process increasingly fibrous material with diminishing returns. Cellular structures demand constant caloric input to maintain baseline functions across the drying landscape. The metabolic balance tips toward critical deficit. Migratory corridors fracture across isolated pockets of surviving vegetation. Coordinated travel splits into scattered foraging units, navigating barren terrain. Established river channels dry completely within a single season. The shifting landscape offers absolutely no reliable pathways forward across the vast plains. Developing juveniles require accelerated nutrient intake to reach protective size. Rapid skeletal growth cannot compensate for widespread nutritional shortfalls. Bone formation slows dramatically as energy reserves dwindle to critical levels. Youth becomes a severe vulnerability rather than an advantage. Protective formations lose their structural integrity under mounting ecological strain. Individuals drift apart while searching for isolated food sources. Collective vigilance diminishes as physical exhaustion overtakes instinctual grouping behaviors. The herd structure unravels across the barren plain without warning. Atmospheric conditions shift abruptly across the entire continental shelf. Particulate matter obscures direct sunlight and alters local temperature gradients. Photosynthetic activity plummets across the remaining canopy. The entire ecosystem enters a state of rapid physiological decline within mere hours. Primary nutritional sources vanish beneath layers of accumulating ash. Tough ferns and primitive flowering shrubs collapse simultaneously across the valley floor. The reinforced beak encounters only barren soil and desiccated roots. Sustained foraging becomes physically impossible across the drying plains. Powerful mastication muscles contract repeatedly against empty space as instinct overrides necessity. The specialized grinding apparatus remains fully functional but entirely useless. Jaw articulation slows dramatically without viable plant matter to process. Survival depends entirely on rapidly changing atmospheric conditions. Facultative locomotion provides no tactical advantage when escape routes disappear entirely. Bipedal sprints exhaust remaining glycogen stores within minutes. The compact body cannot outrun systemic environmental degradation. Movement slows to a deliberate, energy-conserving crawl across the open terrain. The terminal boundary approaches without warning across the western continent. Atmospheric toxicity rises steadily while oxygen availability drops to lethal thresholds. Neural function deteriorates as respiratory systems struggle against contaminated air. Physiological collapse becomes inevitable for every surviving individual. Final populations gather near the last remaining water sources. Coordinated breathing synchronizes across the shrinking group as temperatures spike dramatically. The reinforced cranial structure offers no protection against atmospheric disruption. Every remaining breath grows increasingly labored and shallow in the heavy air. Global environmental disruption accelerates beyond any historical precedent for terrestrial megafauna. The entire trophic network fractures under unprecedented thermal and chemical stress. Metabolic systems shut down sequentially as external conditions become uninhabitable. The lineage reaches its absolute biological endpoint. Fossil evidence confirms the genus persisted until the final moments of the Mesozoic era. Terminal lineage termination occurred without leaving any post-impact trace. My reconstruction of this basal lineage concludes here, tracing a complete evolutionary arc. I invite you to examine how preserved fossils clarify ancient ecosystem dynamics. Like and subscribe to support ongoing scientific research on this channel. Explore my other documentary series to investigate different prehistoric environments.
Herds of the Fading Floodplains concludes our journey through the quiet resilience of Leptoceratops. Their coordinated grazing habits and rapid growth rates illustrate how adaptable herbivores navigated shrinking coastal habitats before the final extinction boundary. I deeply value your time spent exploring these ancient ecosystems alongside me. Please subscribe and comment on which behavioral adaptation surprised you most. Join my Patreon community to secure early viewing, since new dinosaur documentaries drop on Patreon a week before YouTube. My sincere gratitude extends to every channel member and sponsor whose steady backing funds this meticulous research. Your consistent support transforms complex paleontological data into immersive visual storytelling. In just a few seconds, 2 videos with equally interesting documentaries about dinosaurs will appear on the screen. So, go on to watch the next fascinating story.